We begin the current Daf, Mesechta Nedarim Daf Mem Vav. We are in the middle of the Mishnah, which we started this new parak Hashutafin regarding partners. They made a Neder Hano Zemizeh, prohibiting benefit one from the other, which obviously is a continuation of the theme of the previous parak of Ein Bein Hamudar, which is talking about this halacha. But here we're talking about specifically regarding partners. We started off with a machlekes Tanakam Rebbe Lezer regarding if the partners could go into the chatzar or not, which the Ran had explained at length, which we did the bridge version of if there's yesh breira or ein breira. Can you say, well, okay, verified that this was my part? You say, no, we'd share this together, and maybe you're my part, maybe you're my part. So then it would be forbidden for both of them to enter into the chatzar. Now the Mishnah continues on this theme. B'shnei masurim, both of them are forbidden. Lahamid richayim, they're not allowed to put a mill, v'tan or an oven, l'gadol tanagayim, or to have their chickens over there, because although the Gemara says in Perek Chesed about that usually partners are not particular about what's called hamada, about just putting stuff there, but if they are makbid, then they could stop each other. And even though they're usually mavater, but vitur is also b'modana. The things that people usually are okay with, like going into likans lechatz, like we said, that the Tanakhama said it's forbidden because even though it's something that's mavater, it's forbidden. And here, therefore, you would not be able to put this stuff over here because they're mudana zamizeh. Now, what happens, says the Mishnah, another case. Let's say you echad mehem mudar hana. Let's say one of them was mudana mechaver from the other one. Also, lo yikans lechatz, he cannot go into the courtyard. Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says, no, he could tell him, I'm going into my part. I'm not going to your part, which the Ram points out. This case is not necessary, not for Rabban, not Rabbi Shloimy, because according to either one, who cares if both make a neder or one makes a neder? It's the same thing. It's telling you if there's yesh ber in prayer, and of course, according to Tanakama, that one cannot go in. Rabbi Shloimy, he could go in because they say yesh ber. It's just for the next part that we said this case. We forced the one that took the neder to sell his portion. Why? So that's the Ram pointing out. That's specifically when one of them took a neder, not both. Because since he's Asr and his friend is Mutter, we're concerned the words of the Ram now, Shemi Yiskana Bechaver. He might be jealous, envious of his friend. And then he's going to utilize the area also. And therefore, so that he shouldn't stumble, we force him to sell. But when they were both Hanadru Nahana Zemizeh, which was the starting case of Hafashutafin on the previous Amid, where they're both Asr, then we're not concerned because each one is going to be careful with his own Issa that he has to utilize the courtyard. So too, therefore, says the Ram, if someone, let's say, makes his nachas and fidrin on himself, for that reason itself, we don't force him to sell it, because it's only by partners where one made a neder and the other one not, then we force him because he's like, kick for his canteen, and I can't, he's going to want to do it. But when someone himself is forbidden, he's the only one, or if they're both forbidden, then there's no such a concern. Now, points out the Ram, according to Belezman Yaakov also, what do you mean, you're allowed to go into the chatzar, so why are we forcing him to sell it if you're allowed to go into the chatzar because of yesh beira? No, according to him, also there's a concern because since he's going to see his friend putting his oven over there, putting his mill over there, and he's not allowed to, because although he's allowed to walk in because of bravery, you can't just have the mill over there. That's utilizing at all times. So then he's going to be jealous and he's going to come to do the same thing also. And so it says the Ram, what are you going to say? What are you according to Rabbanan that they say you're not allowed to even walk over there? You could understand the reason why he's going to be jealous because he's forbidden to be walking around, but then his friend is permitted and he can protest. But according to Yaakov, what does it bother him? Regarding walking, he's also permitted. And if he's jealous regarding putting the mill over there, he could stop him because we said that partners could stop each other. So what's the problem? He could stop him also. Says the Ran, no, you could say that since partners generally not particular about these things, it's embarrassing for him to go and stop him. Because, as the Ran says, this seif is talking about when who made the neder, it's not, the partner didn't make it on the other partner. Each one made it on himself, as the Gemara is going to explain. So since his friend didn't make him forbidden, he made it forbidden himself because he made a neder. So why is he going to go ahead and patch upon him the other guy and stop him from doing something that partner's not usually particular about it? So therefore, to stop him would be embarrassing. So his friend's going to put the mill over there. He's going to be jealous. He's going to say, I'm going to do the same thing also. So that's the problem we're running into. And therefore we say that we force him to sell his portion. Now what's if, let's say, Haya echad min hashuk muder be'echad memana. What happens if, let's say, someone else, a random person from the street, was a subject of a vow from one of these two partners from having benefit? So lo yikans l'chatzar. He's not going to the courtyard, which the Ran explains is this is not being said to us for the Tanakama. According to him, it's obvious because if one partner could make it problematic for the other partner, for a random guy from the street, I don't have to tell you. Rather, it's coming to tell me a chiddush of Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg. That is, because Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, he disagrees. He says, no, you can tell him, I'm not going to your part, I'm going to your friend's part. I'm not going to your part. So that's a chiddush. Even if someone from the street, we're saying that the partner could not stop him because we're still going to say yesh breira, and they say, I'm not going into your part, I'm going into the friend's part. Now, the Rashba, however, holds that specifically if he's going in for the purposes of the partner, whether he needs the partner or the partner needs him, because the chutzner is required for each one of them and whatever they need. But to go into the courtyard, a random guy from the street, not for the needs of the partner, that says the Rashba, that's going to be forbidden, because if they're kind of from each other, like we said from its inception, for the purposes of where they want to walk, for whatever they needed, that wasn't for everyone. That wouldn't be included in the initial understanding of the yesh breira, and therefore the Rashba says that would be problematic, even though the Ran says in no situation be permitted. The Ran says lo nir lo devarav. Now continues the Mishnah. Hamuda no mechaber. Continue on this theme. Let's say someone back really to the theme of the previous parak. If someone's prohibited from benefit from his friend, and the reason why I bring it over here is because it's really very much related to, as we'll see later on, to the case of like hashut tafin, of what you have partnership with people and things, but because these are things in the city. So the Yeshloi, now the Madir has a merchetz, he has a bathhouse, and he has ubeis habad, and he has an olive press, a wine press, that are in the city, but they're muskarin be'ir. They're actually rented out, they're leased out to someone else in the city. So could this mudder use this guy's bathhouse, which he owns, but he's not using it. He's leased out to someone else right now. So the Mishnah says depends. Im yesh loy bahen, if the mother still has in it what's called a tfisas yad, he still has the holding on of a hand. That's the literal translation. Us is going to be forbidden. Now these rounds are in either Amud Beis or actually on two Amudim later on Mem Zayin, because that's how it's split up for the Gemara. The Mishnayos are split up in the round further. So basically, it's going to be forbidden the mudder to have benefit from those items, because since the mother has a tfisas yad, they mustn't explain what is tfisas yad, but it means he still has a say in the matter. He still has some type of rights in this bathhouse. So then it's like his. So then you wouldn't be able to use the bathhouse, even though it's leased to someone else, because you're benefiting from the mother. But if ein lo ben tfisas yad, but he doesn't have any more rights in this bathhouse, then mutter, then it would be permitted, because you're not benefiting from him. You're benefiting from the renter, from the one who's leasing it out. Now the Rashba writes that when do we say that when he does not have a tfisas yad, it's going to be permitted? It's specifically only when they were leased out before he took the neder. But if he leased it out after the neder, then no, it wouldn't be permitted. Why? Because although the Mishnah teaches shortly that if a guy tells a guy, "Lebeis chashani nichnas," I'm taking a neder, I'm not going to your house. If he dies or it sells it to someone else, it's going to be permitted. That sounds like specifically if he sells it, it's going to be permitted. But leasing it out, that wouldn't be, because if leasing would be effective, then say even the bigger chiddush. Say even if he leases it out, not only sells it for sure when you sell it, rather obviously that it's only if you had the schiris before you took the neder. But if the neder was before the schiris, then the is would not be removed by leasing it. Our Mishnah is talking about that it was leased out from beforehand, and therefore if it does not have a tfisas yad, so the is not going to take effect on this bathhouse, on this olive press that he had already leased out from beforehand. Now, continues the Mishnah further. If someone says to his friend, I'm taking a neder to your house that I'm going in. So this is on Daf Mem Zayin, these runs. In other words, the run just wants to explain for what I'm going to go in, because that's to take effect on the object. So for Lamashani Nichnas boy, for what I'm going in, then I'm taking a neder on that, or or your field that I'm going to buy. In other words, if I buy, then the neder is going to take effect on that field of yours. So the halach is like this: Mace, if the mudder, or however you want to say it, the guy that he took up Isra of Hana from that his field, his house, it dies, or he sells it to someone else, then mutter is going to be permitted. Why? Because he says your house. Now it's not his house because he's dead, or he sold it to someone else. Now, something is says around if he gifted it to someone else would also be permitted. The reason why I'm picking Macharan that he sold it is to say, yes, specifically Macharan La'achav, he sold it to someone else. But if he said Beis Chashani Nichnas and he sells it to him, that would be forbidden, because that's going directly from him to him, even though it's not his anymore. Yeah, but that's the bias of yours that I said I'm not going to have enough of. And continues the Mishnah. Let's say, however, he says, I take a neder to this house that I'm going to ever go into. Or this field that I'm going to buy, then if he dies or he sells to someone else, then it's going to be forbidden. The reason for that is because since he said Bayezeh, this house, so he made this house a chaticha d'isura, a prohibited piece, and therefore even if he sells it to someone else, it's going to be usher. And says the Ran, you should know that just like Bayezeh is chomer from Beischa, your house, regarding selling it to someone else, that it will remain forbidden, so too he says that Beischa is also yet, on the other hand, chomer from Bayezeh regarding if it collapses. Because if he says, Beischa shani nechnas, I'm not going to go a step foot into your house, and it falls and he rebuilds it, and I'll go into it because it's still Beischa, it's still his house. But if he says Bayezeh, this house, and it collapses, well, then even though he goes and rebuilds it, it would be permitted because it collapsed. So it's not this house anymore. No, it's you. It's not the object. It's you. Exactly. Right. Exactly. So there's a chumrah on one and there's a kula on the other one. Now the Gemara has the following question, which relates to the topic of the Mishnah. Ibalu, the Mishnah was talking about the Nadru pligi. Their machlekes was specifically when they took Nedarim, one from the other, which each one said to the other partner, I'm taking Ned, I'm not having any benefit from you. And the other partner says, yeah, I'm taking that, I'm not having benefit from you. And that's the case of the Shetafim, Shenadru Hanazim is that they were still in the Kansas L'chatzer. But, what's the look of, let's say, they didn't take it prohibiting one from the other. But actually, the partners made the other ones forbidden. What would the locha be able to do? What's the question? The Gemara explains. I'll tell you what the question is. Miyamin, do we say benadru the pligi? The whole machlekes was when each one is taking another from the other one. But when you have the other one making the other one forbidden, maybe maybe the Rabban, the Tanakhama, the opening halacha of our Mishnah on the previous daf, maybe they would agree that you would be mutar l'kanas l'chatzer, you would be permitted to go into the chatzer because the chianosin damu, they would be like an oinus beyond their control. In other words, as the Ran explains, maybe really everyone holds yesh breira. And Mikra din, even when they took a Nedarim one from the other, would be permitted because yesh breira, retroactively verified that this is my portion, not your portion. But the Rabbanan held consinale, that we are going to penalize him. Why are we going to penalize him? Because of the fact that they took Nedarim one from the other. Okay, so fine. So why'd you do this? Whereas Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg held that no, that we don't go ahead and we don't penalize. But by Hedirui, you cannot say a knas because it's not my fault. My partner did it on me. So Meikar din is permitted because of Yesh Breira. So says the Ran, obviously this Gemara that's entertained this is not like Ravina who explained in Baba Kama as recorded in the previous stuff, Yesh Breira and Ein Breira. No, according to this, everyone would hold Yesh Breira, but in the case of our Mishnah, when they took Nedarim, what are you taking a neder from your partner? What are you making it difficult now that you can't have a neder? So we're going to knas you. You can't go in. But when he didu, what do you want from me? My partner took it on me. Maybe then everyone would agree that it would be permitted. Says the Gemara, maybe no. I feel bad as a pligur, but maybe the machlek is even when the partners took it on the other ones, not from the other ones. And as the Ran explains, like Ravina holds over there, that the machlek is yesh breira, ain breira. So what was the case? So says the Gemara, Tashma, I'll bring it right from the words of the Mishnah. The words of the Mishnah are if one of them was muder, prohibited from a neder from his friend, upligi Rabban, the Rabban disagree, as the Ran explains. Generally, muder sounds like from his friend, so meaning that the friend had made him. There was a mother and a muder. So it sounds like that it's even by hidirui when you have the partner making the other partner forbidden, and still you see that Rabban say it's going to be asur because they're pligi. So obviously it's because they hold ein breira, not because of a knas. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a raya. Today, actually, you should read it Nader mechaber hana, not muder hana mechaber, but Nader, because in other words, what the Ram means to say, he says kloimar, that the word of Nader is also called muder. So when the Mishnah said muder hana mechaberoi, that's not a raya that there was mipiachem, that was from someone else. It could even be mipiatzmai that he did it himself. And the Gemara says it's actually logical to say that the guy took it on himself and not that it was hididoi, because it's tani seifa. Because what do we say later in the Mishnah? We say, and we force the guy who took the neder, when there's two partners, only one took the neder, not the other one, we force him to sell his portion. Says the Gemara, maybe you're going to say the neder who that he took the neder himself. Okay, and I can understand why you're going to force him because he caused it himself. But if you say the other partner took the neder on him, why do we force him? It's beyond his control. So because ich bin der einzige tzaddik, I'm going to lose out because I'm the one that's I'm going to be miskana b'chavera, and therefore you tell me I have to sell it. Now the Ran says, if you're going to say, well, why can't you say that it's Toma Hidir Chavera? And when we said Kofen es Anoida, we meant the mother. Well, you made him stuck. Now you have to sell your portion. Says the Ran, no. That you could say that we wouldn't hold to force someone to sell his portion because he made his friend forbidden on him. That's not logical. But a guy himself takes a ned himself. It makes sense to force him because what hanad did you have to make yourself forbidden on the chasam of your friend? We have to be concerned that you might be nichshel, and therefore the Gemara ultimately ends off by saying that there's no raya that we have from our Mishnah because our Mishnah could be talking about, and it's logical to be talking about, that he took it himself. But Ididui wouldn't necessarily prove what the halacha would be in that case. Now, the Gemara qualifies the machlekes. Amar Rabba Amar Ziri, he says, he says, this whole machlekes, and we already mentioned this from the Ran in the Mishnah, is specifically a machlekes shesh b'kedei chalukah. The machlekes was regarding a case when there is enough in this chatzar to divide it for the two partners to have it separate. The Rabbanan say it's forbidden because they hold ein breira. And we don't say retroactively it was verified that when you utilize it, that the guf of chatzar was acquired from for his utility. Because since there has halach of chalukah when you bought it, so it wasn't verified that you're going to be permitted to use this portion because maybe it's not going to come to be your portion because you could divide it and ultimately it might turn out that the northern side was your partner's and not yours. So therefore you can't use it. Rabbi Elazar held that no, even in such a situation we say yesh brei because ultimately in the beginning when we bought it was with that intention that we acquired it, that as long as we're not going to divide it yet, the whole chutzner will be acquired for each one to utilize for what they need, and therefore you're allowed to go into the chutzner. But says the Gemara, but if there's no halach of chalukah, it's too small to divide it, then Nivra Kalmot to them and agrees it's going to be permitted, even the Rabbanan. Why? Because since there's no halach of chalukah, and so this is known that forever it's going to be in a partnership between the two of us, and each one of them has rishus to utilize the whole area whatever he wants to. So everyone agrees in that case that yesh breira, because the majority of this acquisition was already verified from the beginning, and therefore, like we had already said in the previous daf, it's not similar to other breiras, and therefore even the Rabbanan would agree that would be permitted. However, the Gemara falls over this. The Gemara is going to actually end up saying the opposite, because only Rabbi Yisrael says haribet knesses. What do you do with a shul? You can't split a shul. You don't say that this is going to be, we're going to have the eastern side is going to be for the guys who don't like a long davening and the guys who don't. We're not splitting up the shul. There's no din chalukah. And it's not still we learn in the Mishnah when you have these two guys who are forbidden from Hana from one from the other, they're forbidden in something in that city, as the Gemara explains later on the parak in Daf Memchesem and Aleph, that the Davar Shalei Seir refers to like a shul. Now, if you're going to say that a chatzar that does not have halach of chalukah is the machlekes in our Mishnah, something that cannot be divided. Now, a chatzar that cannot be divided because it's too small. A shul cannot be divided because you're not dividing a shul. So you could say, who's the town of the Mishnah that says that they're not allowed to use anything in the city? You could say it's like Rabbanan, who say when you have an area she'im b'chalukah, that still it's forbidden to go in. But if you're going to say, as you're saying right now, that by chatzar that has no chalukah, according to everyone's going to be permitted because such a thing you're always going to say yesh breira, that the seat in shul that I'm sitting in, although I'm not having benefit from you, it's my seat, not your seat, because that was mitchila that we had the hanacha. So who are you going to say the Mishnah is like? You told me that when there's no chalukah, everyone agrees it's permitted to go in. But yet we have the Mishnah of Memches that says that no, that you're not going to the shul. So he falls off. He says you're right. We have to say qualify otherwise. The machlekes in our Mishnah is she'ein b'kedei chalukah. Is specifically talking about that it's something that cannot be divided. According to Rabbanan, they hold that even in such a situation, still we don't say breira, and therefore you're forbidden to go into the chutzner. Rabbi Elazar held that no, since it's not possible for one of the partners to hold back the other partner from ever utilizing this area, and he cannot force him to divide it because it's too small to be divided. So initially, when they made acquisition, was that it should be acquired for each and every one of them, the entirety, when he wants to utilize it. And when he utilizes it, we say he retroactively verified that from the beginning it was acquired for this moment for this guy. And Rabbi Elazar holds that although in general aim breira, such a breira, we say yes breira because again the primary kniya was already in this bar from the moment that it was bought, as we already explained this from the Ran on the previous daf. But if it has enough to be divided, then devi hakol aser. Then, and this is what the Ran had already qualified when we said in the Mishnah, then everyone would hold that it's going to be aser because since this chatzar is ready to be divided, so you cannot say in the beginning it was acquired for all of them, for everything that he wants to use it, because maybe one guy is going to force his friend to divide it, and therefore even according to Rabbi Yaakov, it's going to be aser because it might not end up being your portion. So therefore, according to everyone, it's going to be asa. I know Rav Hundi says Allah Yaakov that it's going to be mutter, meaning again the way we're qualifying right now that we're talking about that she'ema gedei chalukah, and therefore we're holding Yaakov that a lot of each partner could go into the chatzar because we say yesh brera at least in this type of case. So even though general will say ein brera, here the halacha will be yesh brera. He says Allah Yaakov, Allah like Yaakov. Now the Mishnah had said, if someone is prohibited from a benefit of hana from his friend, so he said, what happens if, let's say, the guy has a courtyard, he has a bathhouse or whatever it is that he has in the city. So he said, it depends if he has a tfisis yad or not. So it says the Gemara, tfisis yad. So he said, if the madir has a hand still here in this, even though he leased out the bathhouse, he leased out the gym, and this guy, you now have benefit from him, but okay, it's his gym. But I said it's leased out by someone else. Can I go play at the game on Wednesday nights? So this depends. If he has tfisis yad, you're not allowed to. If it doesn't have tfisis yad, then it's permitted. So what is tfisis yad? Says for a half, for a third, for a quarter. What that means to say is that, let's say by a merchatz, by a bathhouse. So if he's getting commission from the bathhouse, according to whatever the gain of the merchatz is, and it's still like his. So if every guy that joins the game on Wednesday night, he gets another $5, so then you're still benefiting from him. He's still considered like he has a tfisis yad, then it would be forbidden. However, but if he has less than that, then loy, that's already considered too insignificant, and that's not going to be considered as a tfisis yad. Now, some of the gears are not bebatzer, but actually the word is bebeitzim. Then it's not a problem. Then it's going to be mutter. What does that mean? What's beitzim? So the Ran explains that they used to have by the owner of the bathhouse would also, sometimes you have a shul, you have someone sells outside tapes or lelavim or whatever. You get, you have a certain place that you could already start selling stuff. So they would sell these beitzim. Now, beitzim doesn't really mean eggs, although that might be a good thing to sell out of a bathhouse. But it's these eggs made out of clay, which they used to use for drying up stuff. Whoever comes to bathe over there would buy it over there. So therefore, he's saying that if the owner of the bathhouse has no gain in the bathhouse at all, the only thing he left over was he had a little stand over there where he would sell these little clay eggs. That's permitted because that's not from the actual bathhouse itself, and therefore that wouldn't be considered as tfisas yad in the bathhouse. Now, Bayami says no. Afil bebatzer aser, even if it's less than mechzas shavia, it would still be forbidden. Still considered he's having a tfisas yad. Or as the gears of the Ran, afil bebeitzim. Even if he has just a little stand that he has over there selling these eggs of clay, Lamaisa still has some role over there. You can't go ahead and use that mikveh that this guy owns and he made you aser bahana. That's still considered tfisas yad. So then the question is, so what would be a case that would be permitted that we're saying that's not called tfisas yad? Says the Gemara is the makabel betaska, meaning that he doesn't take a portion in the gain of the merchatz. Rather, you give him a certain amount, a set amount per year. So in that case, the owner of the merchatz is totally removed from the merchatz. He has nothing to do with this merchatz anymore. He's a persona non grata over here. I gave you your $100,000 a year for the gym. Now get off. You have no rights coming over here. You have nothing to do over here. That's considered a case when he has no tfisas yad, and then the mudah would be able to have hana. Now, some want to be medayik from our sugya that even in such a situation, how is it permitted? Lamaisa, the gufa merchatz is owned by the owner that's leasing it out, and he could make it forbidden on the renter himself, because the Gemara says if someone leases out a house to his friend and then he's makdish it, whoever dwells over there has to give the rent to hektish. And the Gemara explains over there, it's talking about when the masker, the owner, is makdish it, where the guy who's leasing it has to give the rent to hektish. So obviously you see that he can make it forbidden on the guy who's renting it because the gufa karka is his. So for sure he can make it forbidden on others. So even if when he doesn't have a tfisas yad, why is it going to be permitted? So we'll do the bridge version here also. Skip all the way to like Amam Zion in the Ran. Says he goes through it's a whole pilpul in the Rishonim, and he says I wonder on what they're saying because I say la'alacha that even the regular schiras that even if the mother doesn't have a tfisas yad, that it would be permitted for the mudder to have enough in the merchatz of Abad that the mother has rented out in the city. Even though Nadin, most definitely is addressing the question that the masker can make it forbidden on the seicher, even if the seicher already gave the wages or whatever for the schar, like I explained in the Mishnah in the beginning of the parak. He says that's talking about when he makes it forbidden for the seicher, or When he makes it forbidden on every single person, including the seicher, because kainamis could be mafkima de shibud. It could remove it from any right that people have. So that would remove the shibud of the seicher totally. But to make it forbidden on someone else, that he has no rights, because since you still have the shibud of the seicher, is when the mud is having benefit, he says he's not benefiting from the mother, rather he's benefiting from the seicher. And therefore he says, I say, that when he said in the Mishnah, when there's someone from the shuk, this mudr from Echem he's loikans l'chatzer, but Rabbi Yaakov says he's allowed to go in, it's not because of the chiddush of Rabbi Yaakov only that we're saying that. Rather, says the Ran, it's actually coming to tell us the chiddush of the Rabbanan. Because you would have thought to say that although the Rabbanan hold that a shutav can make it forbidden on his friend, that's only because he's removing from him the kinya of the shibud, like we had said before. But for someone from the street, he cannot make his chatzah forbidden on chatzah does not within chalukah, because he could tell him that since the shibud of your chaver still remains by me, I'm going into his portion, not to yours. That's a chiddush that the Rabbanan would say that no, since this mother has acquired in the chatzar a kinya guf and a kinya peris, so it's like he has a tvisas yad, and therefore that's why he could make it forbidden. But if there's no tvisas yad, then it has nothing to do with the mother, and therefore that's why we're saying that it's permitted for the mudder to have enough from this merchas. Thank you to any time for hosting us.